Semitic Magic, Its Origins and Development by R. Campbell Thompson. Part H of the intro, I think. In the Slavonic book of Enoch, Satan is the seducer and paramour of Eve. The very fact that ecclesiastics argue against this belief in their writings shows how strong the belief in them must have been. Now, see, my brother readers, and know this, of angels having intercourse with mankind, is neither in the nature of spiritual beings, nor in the nature of impure and evil demons, who love adultery. For there are no males and females among them, nor has there been even one added to their number since they fell. If the devils were able to have intercourse with women, they would not leave one single virgin undefiled in the whole human race. Now, Quran 2 Sale announce the remark. They say that God hath begotten children. God forbid. With explanation. This is spoken only of the Christians and the Jews, for they are accused of holding Uzair or Ezra to be the son of God. But also of the pagan Arabs. Well, the Quran doesn't use terms like pagan, heathen, and such, who imagine the angels to be the daughters of God. Comment on Surah 2. Paul believed that the demons could be warded off and their influence repelled by chalabi, or headdress of the Jewish women. Thus, as Dean Barar admits in his Life of Christ, Appendix 8, is the first true meaning of Paul's rule that women should veil themselves in church because of the angels. Well, by angels they mean the jinn, right? According to the tradition of Muhammad, everyone is touched at birth by the veil except Mary and her son, between whom and the evil spirit God placed a veil. And Sale put this as a note to Surah 3. Asmodeus, Ashma, Shama, and the archdemon of wrath, contrary to the archangel of obedience, Sra'asha, who first appears in the book of Tobit 3:17, is made responsible for the danger in men marrying Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, and Raguel sounds like a sauce, doesn't it? Pasta sauce, doesn't it? And he must be bound before Tobias can wed his bride. The phrase, "for devil loveth her," together with the whole story, shows how great a hold the belief obtained. Dr. Gaster has published 2 hitherto unknown versions of the Tobit legend, which relates that Tobiah remembered the words of Raphal, and that he took the heart of a fish and put it on a censer and burnt it under the clothes of Sarah. And Ashmedai received the smell, and he fled instantly. According to the Testament of Solomon, Asmodeus is made to say, "I am called Asmodeus among mortals, and my business is to plot against the newly wedded, so that they may not know one another. And I sever them utterly by many calamities, and I waste away the beauty of virgin women, and estrange their hearts. I transport men into fits of madness and desire, when they have wives of their own, so that they leave them and go off by night and day to others that belong to other men." But he describes his own parentage as being from an angel seed by a daughter of man. And instead of incense, the Muslim and the ancient Egyptian would precede the opening of the ritual by another call, calling the people to prayer. Daughter of man. He was the counterpart of Lilith, as being dangerous to women. From this, it seems apparent that the antagonism of Asmodeus towards the newlywed arose primarily from the idea that he jealously guarded to himself some kind of jus prima noctis, and that he was always ready to attack anyone who should interfere with his possible harem. His functions are the same as those of a demon of some of the native tribes of central Queensland, who is a noxious being called Borlanga, who prowls unseen and would kill men and violate women if certain ceremonies were not performed. Azazel was familiar to the rabbis as the seducer of men and women. In the Testament of Solomon, one of the demons is described as having the form of a dragon with the face and hands of a man. I am the so-called winged dragon, and I chamber not with many women, but only with a few that are of fair shape, which possess the name of Wekuli, Oeuli of the star, and I pair with them in the guise of a spirit, winged in form. Coitum happens pernatus, and she on whom I have leapt goes heavy with child, and that which is born of her becomes Eros. Conberg, JQ, 1131. But since the offspring cannot be carried by men, the woman in question breaks wind. In the Arabian Nights, in the story of the second royal mendicant, the Ifrit says, O man, it is allowed by our law, if a wife be guilty of incontinence, to put her to death. This woman I carried off on her wedding night, when she was 12 years of age, and she was acquainted with no man but me. Among modern Arabs, the belief goes still further, that a dead husband may revisit his wife. It is said that a woman in Nebk took the bath of ceremonial purification because she dreamt that she received a visit from her dead husband. A certain man in Nebk was certainly believed to have been the offspring of such a union, with no reproach being ever cast upon his mother. There is a tradition in some remote Jewish communities that a woman may be married to the dead. On the superstition of eating corpses of men executed, see... Oh, well, we don't need to see that because... Oh, come on. Not eating the corpses of the executed. Probably even higher risk because criminals are more likely to have certain diseases, particularly nowadays with the prisons. Cognate with this was the action of a barren woman who rushed up to the corpse of a man after he had been executed for murder. I read the wrong comment in the wrong place, but whatever. Somewhat familiar to Asmodeus is the Arab spirit called Qarina, a female demon accompanying every woman and having as many children as her counterpart. Just as Lilith took the place of Eve, evidently the Qarina is intended in one of her faces, that of bearing children, to do the same for each man. She's very dangerous to pregnant women and newly married people. That is to say, just as Asmodeus becomes jealous of interference with his rights, so does the Qarina admit of no dallying with other women. She is said to destroy the creative power of men and to make women barren, and to her is due epilepsy, as the penalty of pouring water over the threshold of the door without naming God on a Friday, or to quench the fire. She may appear as an owl, a Jewess, a camel, or black man. Well, since Jews don't have any particular physical appearance, if we say that they look Semitic, you can't tell them apart from Arabs. So I'm not sure exactly what they mean here. There's a story that Solomon once met a singular-looking woman and asked her whether she was a John, a hidden being, or human. She answered that she was the Qarina. I put hatred between husband and wife. I make women miscarry. I make them barren. I make men impotent. I make husbands love other men's wives. Women other women's husbands. In short, I do all contrary to the happiness of wedded life. Presumably in the same way the Assyrian demons in Tablet K steal away desire and bring to naught the seed. Springer, Malleus Maleficarum of 1580, about witches in page 181, Quod Obstetrices Maleficia Conceptus in utero diversis modis interimunt aborissum procurant et ubi hoc non faciunt demonibus natus infantis offerunt. That barren woman among the Semites and divine intervention to give them children is evident from the Old and New Testament. Well, the Jews would never call Tanakh the Old Testament, and according to the so-called New Testament, I came not to do away with any jot or tittle of the law. I came to plahorose, to refurbish it, away from whatever mistakes, whatever fragments and corruptions have been done to it, to restore the thing. So, again, not New Testament, not Old Testament, same Testament, just reconfirmed, as well as from other sources. Indeed, so many of the other stories point to a materialistic conception that we must not suppose the primitive origin of such a belief that arose from any ideas of abstract answer to prayer. When Yahweh, God is a noun and verb, visits Sarah, R, and Leah, R, the angel of Yahweh, comes to Samson's mother. We must surely see a remnant of the tradition bearing on the divine origin of Isaac and the sons of Leah, as well as of the Nazarite Samson. Genesis 21:1, Genesis 29:31, and Yahweh saw that Leah was hated, and he opened her womb. Judges 13:3. Judges has a... Is it Judges that has that more extreme version of the theme you have in the Lot story? To this day, Muslimin at Hamath swear by Dai Penis in the village. Yeah, this isn't Islamic practice. In the village of Bludan, 25 miles west of Damascus, which is composed of Greek Christians of a very low type, the same oath is heard on the lips of women. See, that's probably where it originated from, because Christians believe that God was a male. Herodotus has handed down this belief, which was current about the temple of Bel at Babylon. No man is suffered to sleep here, but the apartment is occupied by a female, whom the Chaldean priests affirm that their duty selects from the whole nation as the object of its pleasures. They have a tradition which cannot easily attain credit that their entity enters this temple and reposes at night on this couch. A similar tradition is also made by the Egyptians of Thebes. For the interior part of the temple of Theban Jupiter, a woman in like manner sleeps. Of these two women, it is presumed that neither of them is ever introduced to the other sex. And the existence of the Assyrian Kizriti, Uchati, and Charamati is worth mentioning in this connection. In a certain family in Nebk, the wife, a perfectly respectable woman, apparently with the consent of her husband, considers it wrong to refuse a holy man. An older version of the right of kings. One Hannah, Kazani of Hamath, visited Tanta in Egypt and saw the great annual festival. A Sayyid, Ahmed el-Badawi, probably the most popular saint in Egypt, when there were upwards of 500,000 persons present, including singers, dancers, jugglers, and showmen of every kind. It is at this festival that some of the honorable women vow the use of their bodies to the first one who happens to approach them. Sexual excesses were practiced down to the quite modern times at the annual festival of the prophet Elijah within the enclosure of the monastery on the top of Mount Carmel. and temporary marriages can be tied to this. Sozomen speaks of an ancient custom of yielding up virgins to prostitution when on the eve of marriage to those whom they have been betrothed at Heliopolis under the Mount Libanus. Herodotus speaks of the custom of the women devoting themselves to Venus among the Babylonians and Cyprians. 199. Okay. So we see sacred origins of the bachelor or bachelorette sort of parties. Or infernal, or however you want to say it. What throws more light on this peculiar idea is the ubiquity of the belief among modern Arabs. There is abundant evidence to show how persistently the childless women cling to the belief that a visit to a sanctuary, in its broadest sense, will remove the stigma. Running water, which has sacred connection either with the wali, holy man, saint, or hero, is the most usual aim of these childless pilgrims. In some channels, the Orontes, the first night that the water is allowed to flow, there is a special virtue of procreation, and barren women stand therein, waiting for the onrush of the water. At Kiryatan, at the so-called Baths of Solomon, is a famous shrine called Abu Rabbah for women who desire children. They really regard the wali of the shrine as the father of the children born thus. They allow the hot air to stream up their bodies, saying, O Abu Rabbah, to thee come the fair ones. With thee is the generation, with us is the conception. There is a cave at Junna in which is a pool of water to which the same power is attributed. At the stream of Tel el Bade, the barren women bathe the same object. And hundreds visit the shrines of Sa Dadim at Jeba, appearing the following year, following year, each with a child on her arm, and bringing sacrifice. The shrine of Cheddar at Beirut contains, on its court, a well of holy water called Decker Male, and barren women bathe therein. If they conceive a child, he is called Cheddar. In Palestine, a man who has not had a child promises a fedoo if only he may receive the gift of one from a certain saint. If it should be born when it is several days old, they put the blood of the sacrifice offered in payment and vow on its forehead. And let's compare John 5:4, the story of the spirit which is troubled with the water, versus analogy to a Syrian text about the word of Marduk, WAI, Volume 4, 26, 4, 1, 6. Assyriology, G5, 332. Anna Tamte, Usharma, Tamtum, She, Galtat, Anna, Susi, Usharma, Sura, Edamum, Anna, Agi, Purati, Usharma, Amat, Elu Marduk, Ashuraku, Edalach. Unto the sea it penetrateth, and the sea heaveth. Unto the marsh it penetrateth, and the marsh groaneth. Unto the Euphrates flood it penetrateth, and the word of Marduk troubleth the riverbed. On other holy wells and springs, such as Zamzam at Mecca, Jidlal, Ani, Dalol of Manasseh, Peneas, etc.,